Black salve is a natural herbal-based medical treatment. The core active ingredients, bloodroot or Sanguinaria canadensis, have cancerous treatment records going as far back to the American Indians and later to the early European and Western physicians. Today we have medical studies on this formula, medical records, and countless testimonial reports of its success in treating lentigo maligna melanoma, lymph node affected with metastatic breast cancer, ductal carcinoma of the right breast, and other breast cancers, cutaneous leishmaniasis, which is a skin infection, warts, moles, plantar warts, even Ewing sarcoma, a so-called bone and muscle incurable cancer, tongue cancer, bowel cancer, basal cell carcinoma, and squamous cell carcinoma. Independent filmmakers have even made a documentary profiling modern-day users' success. This natural-based herbal mixture is free and belongs to humanity, in that no company can own it, as it contains natural plant-based ingredients. These appear in nature and belong to humanity. No corporation can exploit its scarcity or own it through the patent process. As a result, the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry has an inherent conflict of interest with this information. Note well, Quackwatch's coverage of black salve does not describe the safe black salve formula referenced in this video and in any of our documents. Some salves are made from unknown origins with unknown ingredients, and these may be unsafe. Quackwatch attempted to generalize and state all are bad. This is not accurate and can only describe a formula that was not made properly or even applied properly. Barrett describes a formula that is not in the black salve recipe. That's how incorrect he is. He states, and I quote, "Many salves, pastes, and plasters have been applied directly to tumours with the hope of burning them away. Zinc oxide, bloodroot, and several other herbs are common ingredients." End quote. This is entirely incorrect. Sorry, Barrett. First of all, the contents do not even contain zinc oxide. The black salve formula in question contains zinc chloride, not zinc oxide. Zinc oxide could never be made to do the same function. This is a very desperate measure to discredit genuine herbal cancer treatment. "100% zinc chloride is not damaging to healthy tissue. It will, however, sting if it comes into contact with an open cut, and it will sting when it is coming into contact with cancerous tissue." Greg Caton has gone to the effort to show the public this and handled zinc chloride with his bare hands. This presentation is dedicated to the health freedom advocates who have sacrificed their time to bring you this information. Greg Caton, Panacea Volunteers, Peter James, Martin Jurica, and Bruce Gorrie. Elaine Hollingsworth, Adrian Jones, Bevan Potter, and all the individuals who continue to help Panacea report the success of alternative cancer treatments. The herbal formula that makes up black salve contains natural ingredients. Natural therapies cannot be patented and monopolized by pharmaceutical interests for profit. Drug companies cannot make as much money from this alternative cancer treatment over their present prescription of synthetic drugs or surgery. Also, any medical policing bodies like the TGA in Australia or FDA in the United States could never receive a paycheck for approving black salve as an alternative cancer treatment. Currently, black salve, popularly known as the Alpha Omega Labs product called Cansema, is banned by governments for any therapeutic use in both humans and even in animals. This is despite its proven non-toxic track record. In 2012, the medical policing body in Australia, the Therapeutic Goods Administration, has banned not only the sale of black salve, but any DVD or information telling of others who have cured their cancer with black salve. It is important to note that the initial reports that are being used to discredit black salve involve fake reports of the genuine recipe, which forced the original Cansema producer, Alpha Omega Labs, to produce a fake product compensation program. In other words, any Tom, Dick and Harry can complain about black salve or put a fake product on the market and complain. The genuine formula tells another story. To address the Australian ban of black salve by the Therapeutic Goods Administration, Panacea has written to the TGA and have our correspondence on records, informing them about the safe black salve formula and how literally hundreds of people out there have records and testimonials of black salve working to the efficacy and safety of the correct black salve formula. Plus, that black salve has a history of false reports, and you can read about them on Greg Caton's website. The initial reports that came to the TGA have not been validated by those who know the safe formula and have used it, nor have any of their complaints been detailed. For example, what formula was used, what brand, who was harmed, and how they used it. So who is to say it is genuine or policed? This has happened in the past. Panacea also stated to the TGA that we can establish with our own volunteers, medical records, and even a live subject or live test that the correct formula is safe and has medical efficacy. These are completely contradictory to these mystery reports being claimed by the TGA. We have also stated that there is no way that banning a DVD showing others who have cured their cancer with a safe formula will be tolerated. In Australia, black salve used to be approved for horses, cats and dogs, but now the word must be getting out there, as you're not even allowed to sell it, period, and you cannot tell your story. History shows that when a natural substance shows promise against cancer, drug companies invest all their time and money into developing a synthetic version that can be patented. More often than not, it just doesn't work. Letting the public know that there is a cheap, non-toxic, natural cure would mean missing out in a billion-dollar revenue stream. Panacea has produced, to the best of our knowledge, the world's first medical records of black salve working in a human subject. These records are presented in this video for anyone to evaluate. Many others have provided video and photo testimonials of black salve's success. The point being, the safe black salve formula in question have gone beyond the need for any human trials. Despite this fact, there will never be any financial benefit or incentive for drug companies to spend money on human trials to bring the public black salve. What happens when a natural cure is discovered? Public education is the only way to ensure its security. That's right, public knowledge can only police it. But who allocates the budget to support this? There are many alternative cancer treatments which, like black salve, have statistical efficacy over the current medical industry. The drug companies will have a conflict of interest with people selling and using black salve to treat themselves. This is an issue of corruption, health freedom, and is a tragic and unnecessary educational crisis. Panacea has provided our own ideas to help police this scenario and needs all those who decide to use black salve to participate in an effortless program to record medical proof and help Panacea educate the public. Please check the How You Can Help by Using Black Salve section of this video and in any of our documents. Until enough participate with Panacea to help accumulate allopathic medical proof, the majority of the public will continue to believe the present half-truths, misleading data, and manipulated results of particular alternative cancer treatments. These are the tactics presently used against natural remedies. They may as well be under lock and key. Black salves of one type or another have been around for a very long time. In fact, many go back thousands of years ago or more. However, more recently, common ingredients of these black salves generally, but not always, have included bloodroot and a zinc base. The use of black salves has had a checkered history with claims and counterclaims by those who are believers and by those who criticize its usage. In fact, this whole topic deserves another documentary. The battle has cost many a good person their reputation, their health, their personal relationships, their livelihood, their freedom, even their life. More importantly, it may be costing lives of patients. More recently, towards the latter part of the last century, more refined versions of black salves have been used extensively with different names, including Herbval 8 and the popular Cansema. Any testing or observation that might have been done using earlier versions is largely obsolete today, especially that which might have concluded that the mode of action of the black salve is by corrosion, and much of the current medical information is based on such outdated versions. However, some of these older versions are still being used today. The current version of black salve has been in circulation for over 10 years, and it is substantially the same product called Cansema, which was produced initially in the United States by Greg Canton's Alpha Omega Laboratories. It is a herbal-based product featuring two principal herbs that are said historically to have pharmacologically demonstrated anti-cancer properties. These are bloodroot and chaparral. These herbs, when dried, are compounded in simmering water with a zinc chloride base, a small amount of DMSO, which is a carrier or a delivery system molecule, and some glycerine to help maintain the moisture of the salve. The resultant black salve compound is aqueous or water-based, so moisture can be restored simply by adding water if necessary. Black salve has been classified chemically as an escharotic in the literature, which literally means it creates an eschar, or a piece of dead tissue. In cases of skin cancer treatment using black salve, the belief is that the eschar is the dead tumour. After treatment, the eschar will be expelled by natural bodily processes over a short time. Usually, this is within 5 to 14 days, even if the tumour is quite deep. It rarely, if ever, requires debridement or surgical removal. The closest some patients come to this is to eventually pick it out with a fingernail. Usually, it just comes away in the shower when it is ready. It is important to dispel all the myths about black salve. There is opposing literature stating that black salves are corrosive, that is, they work by corrosion, as it may burn into the skin or burns the cancer out. Maybe some black salves made in the past were corrosive, but the more recent black salves used, including the product Cansema and the spin-offs, are definitely not corrosive. Black salves that are being used now do not act by causing corrosion of the tissue. This black salve is non-corrosive. This is not a claim, merely a statement of scientific fact based upon proven results and testimonials. It is true that this black salve can be applied safely to healthy skin tissue, even sensitive skin, and even after prolonged application, 24 hours, or even up to 48 hours, to healthy tissue. The most it will do will be to create a bit of redness and maybe mild itchiness, because it does attract blood and lymph to the area. That is simply an inflammatory response, and that is the desired function of the salve after all. But it will not burn or corrode at all, and once the salve is removed, these extremely mild symptoms will rapidly disappear. It's important to state that this is only when using the tried, trusted and proven formula of black salve. So do not pay any attention to any would-be critics out there who had better get up to date and get proper testing done and alter the commentary in the scientific and popular magazines about this issue, and or advise doctors as to be able to at least be of some help to patients if they want truthful advice, informed consent, and knowledgeable assistance. Do not pay any attention, for example, to websites like Quackwatch. If you have ever read Quackwatch, written by Stephen Barrett, and suspect that alternative cancer treatments represent a fraud, consider this information from Who Funds Quackwatch page of the actual Quackwatch website written by Stephen Barrett. Neither Quackwatch nor I have any financial ties to any commercial or industrial organisation. My viewpoints are not for hire. Even if they were, none of my imaginary funders would actually have a reason to hire me. However, in court, Stephen Barrett had to admit ties to the American Medical Association, Federal Trade Commission, and the Food Drug Administration. In the same court appearance, Barrett was forced to admit that he was not a medical board certified psychiatrist because he had failed the certification exam. This was a major demonstration of Barrett's integrity and honesty, since he had provided so-called expert testimony as a psychiatrist and had testified in numerous court cases. Barrett also had said that he was a legal expert, even though he had no formal legal training. It was also determined that Barrett had filed defamation lawsuits against almost 40 people across the country within the past few years and had not won one single case at trial. If, after investigating Quackwatch and Barrett, you suspect that the real fraud is being run by Barrett, you would not be alone. Even Barrett admits, many people wonder whether Quackwatch is a front for the American Medical Association, the pharmaceutical industry, the medical establishment, or whomever else they might not like. Nearly every week I get emails accusing me of this and worse. Consider the following quote by Paul Winter, the webmaster for AlternativeCancer.us. I, Paul Winter, the webmaster for alternativecancer.us, have numerous times sent Stephen Barrett copies of the NCI test results for CanCell, which prove that the NCI lies about their testing of this alternative cancer treatment. Barrett claimed that he had never got them. How does the black salve actually function?
There are competing theories of how CanSema and other escharotic preparations actually work. But this is my belief, based on years of discussions with doctors, pathologists, and other practitioners. I do not believe that CanSema actually kills cancer cells. I believe that CanSema eats away at the cancer cell's membrane in such a way that the body then recognizes it as an invasive agent. What then follows is edema, redness, an onslaught of white blood cells, the same reaction the immune system initiates when it kills any other invasive agent. So really, all CanSema does is stop cancer cells from continuing to masquerade as healthy cells. The body can then do what it was designed to do.
Due to there not being any present scientific trials, we can only remain uncertain as to the precise mechanisms that might characterize the action of black salve. We can be hypothetical based on observational data only. It does appear that principles contained within the salve are transdermally absorbed, that is, have the capacity to be absorbed across dermal strata, maybe into the deepest skin. Black salve also appears to act as a catalyst or a regent in mediating an immune response, a response that demonstrates all the hallmarks of a classic acute inflammatory response. In short, blood causing rubor and serious fluid causing edema that is rich in leukocytes, white blood cells including T cells and macrophages, cytokines and other mediators of inflammation. All are attracted to the area, presumably increasing levels of various substances, including tumor necrosis factor, or TNF. The simple answer is that these mediators somehow break down and destroy cancer cells in the body. These precise mechanisms known to induce an immune response include stimulating of the anti-tumor response by increasing the number of effector cells, or by producing one or more soluble mediators such as lymphokines. Somehow it decreases specific suppressor mechanisms. It does promote antibody recognition of the tumor antigens, which may involve complement system and enzymes, or by generating a T-cell response. It stimulates active immunity. The immune system now recognizes the tumor as foreign and will spit it out. Also stimulating a cytokine cascade which regulates NK cells, macrophages, and neutrophils, as well as T and B cell responses. All reports so far on the modern black salve formula are all conclusive, and that is, it remains certain that the salve does not affect healthy tissue, only neoplastic cancerous cells. If we are to compare the alternative herbal-based salves to the standard allopathic medical treatments, the comparisons are breathtaking. The combination of herbs used in the formulation does seem to exhibit highly active anti-cancer properties. From clinical experimentation and observation, believers definitely suspect the salve has the quality of being cancer cell specific. It only acts on cells which are cancerous, neoplastic. They also know that it does not appear to adversely affect non-cancerous or healthy tissue. Many patients present with a medical diagnosis, from a biopsy, for example. The salve is then applied the cancer appears to die and get expelled, the tissue heals up. Follow-up medical examinations, including the biopsy, confirm that the cancer indeed has gone. You do not have to be a dermatologist to work out the outcome.
Here's an afterthought for you. There's a full investigation underway here concerning my kidnapping. And whether I like it or not, my case is going to be made very public very soon. The particulars of it. The facts of it are already out there. But I understand how and feel. But my situation is entirely different. In other words, they're not public and they have the option of maintaining a certain degree of anonymity. In my case, I have no choice about it.
Okay.
And, I'm told that before it's all over with, some heads are going to roll over this because a lot of both domestic and international laws were broken. For me to have an extradition hearing, I win my extradition hearing. The U.S. government doesn't like it and basically says, the law, we do what we want to, we don't have to obey anybody's laws, we're going to kidnap you whether you won your extradition case or not. Well, this is what's out there. And not only that, but, you got this guy out there right now, Dr. Jonathan Emord, E-M-O-R-D. This guy's basically a constitutional lawyer in the U.S. who represents people like Sandy Shaw and Dirk Dirksen and Dr. Julian Whitaker. I mean, the guy's got some top names that he's represented in court, and he's on Coast to Coast and Jeff Rent Show and all these other top talk shows basically saying the FDA's nothing but it's a racketeering operation. What we have is the show's being run by a crime syndicate. I can machine gun your audience with enough documents to make them look like Swiss cheese. I mean, I've got support documentation. I got enough support documentation to choke a horse.
Well, that's great. This might be something that we could submit to somebody like 60 Minutes, or...
They're not going to do it. And I'll tell you why. Because the fact that... Let me give you an example of how corrupt it is. After I was kidnapped, my wife had some discussions with the producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show. And the producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show told my wife point blank, we've researched your project, we can't do this, we've got advertising clients, the pharmaceutical companies are among our top advertising clients, we can't afford to piss them off. At least, I'll give her this much credit, at least the producer of Oprah Winfrey had at least the decency to at least say why we can't do it.
There's a man named Greg Caton who was kidnapped, abducted by U.S. authorities in Ecuador. This story broke first in 2009, that he was abducted. And he was, oh man, this is an incredible story. The U.S. State Department had operatives working in Ecuador. They bribed the local police there. They had men with guns intercept Greg Caton in his driveway. They shoved him into a vehicle, drove him to a city called Guayaquil, where they, after a little bit of a hearing, where a local judge said, you got to set him free. He hasn't violated any laws. U.S. State Department officials thrust him onto an American Airlines airplane. He was flown back to Miami, and then he was incarcerated in Louisiana and Texas. He served almost 2 years in federal prison for the so-called crime of selling, quote, unapproved drugs, which were nothing more than plant-based herbal cures for cancer, a topical cure that really works, by the way. It really does cure skin cancer, and I have numerous testimonials on that, even from esteemed scientists, including a former NASA astronaut who has used that product. But the point is, Greg recently got out of prison, all right? He's back in Ecuador as of right now. And that's a whole story by itself of how he got back to Ecuador. Now that he's in Ecuador, he and some of my contacts in Ecuador, because I used to live there, have been able to pull together some documentation documentation that now proves that his removal from Ecuador was highly illegal. Now, for those of you watching here on prisonplanet.tv, there's a graphic that you'll see. It's the Policía Nacional del Ecuador. It's a migration movement document. This is a recording of where Gregory Caton was at every time in history. In other words, moving in and out of the country of Ecuador. Now, if he had been extradited through any kind of legal process, then this document would have shown that he left the country legally. There would be a line on here that says that he flew out of Guayaquil. Instead, there is no line on this document indicating that he never left Ecuador legally. He was illegally removed by U.S. operatives, criminals working for the FDA, for the State Department, criminals who engaged in an international abduction of a U.S. citizen who was guilty of no crime in Ecuador whatsoever. Now, think about this, folks, and think about the fact that you probably haven't heard this story before because the mainstream media isn't covering this at all. They absolutely refuse to cover it. I think this is one of the biggest stories of the week because it shows the criminality of the U.S. government and just the desperation that it is showing in trying to intimidate those who promote natural cancer therapies, especially ones that really work. Now, Greg Caton is hopefully going to be joining us at a future show date here on the Alex Jones Show. I've also interviewed him on Natural News. We're going to have an interview published there. Watch for more stories on Greg Caton. Just know that as of right now, after serving 2 years in prison, he is safe and sound in Ecuador. Now, here's another interesting thing. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration was able to get Gregory Caton listed on Interpol. Yeah, Interpol, red flagged on Interpol. Now, the red flag status is normally reserved for individuals who are international war criminals or mass murderers or mass rapists. I mean, we're talking about serious, hardcore criminals. But Greg Caton was listed on there, and they said that he was guilty of drug crimes. What drugs? Herbs? Really? Is that what you're talking about, drug crimes? But it gets even worse. They were also able to get Greg Caton listed on a Parade magazine list of America's Most Wanted Criminals, which featured none other than Osama bin Laden. And just underneath Osama bin Laden, you see the picture of Greg Caton. Right. That's how desperate they are. You can't sell herbs that actually cure cancer in America.
I survived an FDA raid on September 17th, 2003. I was asked by many people all the time, how are you able to function? How are you able to maintain? And I would tell people, look, what the FDA did was so evil that I was not going to let evil win. After the FDA came in with guns drawn, came in and took all of our inventory and destroyed it, arrested my husband, we received just hundreds of phone calls, people crying hysterically, what are we going to do? Your products were curing our cancer. What are we going to do? And all we could do is just cry with them because we were helpless at that time. We even had a phone call from a woman after the FDA closed us down, and she had told the story that she had cured herself of cancer with our herbal formulas of breast cancer, and she tried to get her story on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And the Oprah Winfrey Show told her, we cannot air your story because we are supported by the pharmaceutical companies. If people don't believe that there is suppression and oppression when it comes to cancer cures or any kind of cures, then think again. I challenge any and every woman and child and man that has cured themselves of cancer or any disease to try to get their story told on any media outlet, whether it be any talk show program, news program, magazine, or newspaper. Try to get your story told and see just how far you get. If you don't think there's a suppression, there is. At Greg's sentencing hearing, we had a medical doctor come to testify on Greg's behalf. He knew our product worked. He believed in our CanSEMA products. He knew that they worked and cured people of cancer. His mantra for the day was, when enough people know about the suppression, they can't suppress it anymore. So I ask all of you to stand up and stop the suppression. There are cancer cures. Stand up and stop the suppression now.
Other products that Greg Caton has produced in his Alpha Omega Labs retreat in Ecuador include Tonic 3, which can change the way we treat cancers, especially metastasized melanomas, even at stage 4. The popular internal CanSEMA Tonic 3 has a lot of testimonials curing so-called terminal cancers. Greg has a lot of other potential and products with testimonials behind them, including the botanical support formulas for bone cancers, brain cancers, breast, kidney, liver, and others, plus other immune support products. All of these have efficacy in treating disease over allopathic medical treatments, and all have testimonials and even scientific research behind them. However, Greg is the only one providing these, including herbal phytotinctures. No one knows how much Greg has suffered and that his products in Ecuador can change public health as we know it. They all remain under the radar, and we need safe conditions and our own research centre in order to harbour a safe passage and education for all these treatments. The multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry also have no regulation or corporation charter in place preventing them from financing or corrupting political figures and influencing regulation for their favour. Do you know your history of their corruption? Medical policing bodies like the FDA in the USA and the TGA in Australia also have no independent body to ensure that an independent, evidence-based and non-aligned report is done to regulate or police them. It's a free-for-all, and you are paying for it. Corruption in the FDA is well documented. False claims by the TGA in Australia is well documented and has cost the taxpayer $60 million. Do you need any more convincing? Given this reality, what would the average Joe expect to happen if a cheap cancer cure made from natural ingredients appeared? Do you think you can rely on the previous track record and these many holes that are still present in the system to police the truth? You better think twice about this and evaluate the history. Any remedy that has natural, unpatentable ingredients not only has an unforeseen history of suppression, but will by default attract corruption and a conflict of interest, and has much motivation in preventing you, the public, from knowing about its use and success. Are you sure you're not a cash cow? Are you really sure? Just because you have not learnt the history of medical suppression from the mainstream media or in your faculty or school doesn't mean you can't trace it or find it. TV, toxic food, and entertainment is a good sedative, isn't it? It is for now, but it doesn't have good results for your family's future. Who polices all this? The Black Salve formula in question also has records of curing cancer in animals, for example horses, cats and dogs. Yet in Australia, the Veterinary Association and the TGA, who are both unregulated, by the way, by an independent non-profit entity, and are on a budget taken from your taxpayer dollars, are, at present without any proof, informing the public that Black Salve does not work. Not only this, they are shutting down vendors who sell the formula, threatening them with legal action, even if they list it for animal use. How do you justify this with no proof? How do you justify this with medical records that prove otherwise? The time has come to call a spade a spade. At what point do you realise that you are a cash cow? People like Greg Caton, the original educator of this herbal escharotic, was illegally kidnapped from Ecuador and has shown that vested interests will do anything to dumb you down. Yes, you are being dumbed down. They will do anything to keep their money going and your health declining. Corruption is part of the human condition and has a long history showing that we need to do things to police it. Why would you think that healthcare is immune to corruption? Because you do nothing and think so, you enable them to be more dangerous than standing armies and do more damage to our population. Health crusaders like Elaine Hollingsworth have had to suffer to make the public realise the elephant in the room. The pharmaceutical industry and the TGA or government can't produce the results. Why is that? Only public education or awareness can police corruption. There are always both reason and consequence for one's actions. In the TGA's case, their actions are motivated either by ignorance or by corruption. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and examine their actions as if they were motivated by ignorance. We wish to bring to your attention the case of Australian woman Nirvana Anderson in Queensland, Australia, who detailed her experiences with the toxic Eldara cream and the Cansema Black Salve. After watching her father being mutilated by conventional skin cancer treatment, she searched for a way to treat her skin without harsh chemicals or surgery. In Nirvana Anderson's YouTube video, she showed how Black Salve is not harmful to healthy tissue, just like all the other videos and web testimonials have been reporting since before the 90s. In this footage, Nirvana Anderson applies the same Black Salve she used to successfully treat her cancers on her arm, just to prove a point. First, an area is chosen for a point of reference for a scar. The salve is then applied in the usual way, where it remains on the target area with bandage or band-aid for 24 hours. After 24 hours, Tanya removed the salve and reports no damage, no pain, and that it feels just like a mosquito bite. After a few days, we can see only a slight redness remains, and no damage to healthy skin. No caustic action is observed, no burning, and no harm. Now to the TGA's actions. The following text appears in Nirvana Anderson's YouTube video description. Quote, "The TGA sent 2 men 1,800 kilometers to my home to shut down my website, where I talked about Black Salve, although I didn't sell it. They had no interest in my results. They just wanted me to be quiet. This YouTube posting is the only option I now have to present my own experience and results. My 19 treatments cost me $60, which was the cost of one tub of black salve. Surgery would have cost me thousands. I am not a scammer. I am an ordinary Australian mother who watched her father and other relatives be mutilated by conventional skin cancer treatments. When I stumbled on black salve in 2010, I decided that I should try it so my children could be better informed about options and not have to surrender to the knife. My father's skin cancer treatments never ended. He had numerous skin grafts. The most noticeable was one on his forehead which had long hairs growing out of it. It had been transplanted from a hairy area of his body, and the hairs continued to grow. He used to get up to 100 cancers burnt off with liquid nitrogen at one time. All these made it obvious conventional medicine is not winning the battle against skin cancer. When you try this product and have good results, please pay it forward. Take photos, keep records of how and what happened, and post on YouTube. We simply can't allow this product to remain in the shadows. End quote from Nirvana Anderson's YouTube video. We ask you, if Nirvana Anderson was not selling black salve, what right or even interest did the TGA have in asking her to take down her website? Why wouldn't they observe or be interested in her successful results? If in fact their role there was in protecting the Australian public from false claims, or so-called fake medicine. In regard to the TGA claims that black salve is harmful to healthy skin and does not successfully treat cancer, we wish to illustrate another case. Ken Murray is another Aussie having a crack. Ken also went to the trouble, like Nirvana, to prove the same point. Black salve does successfully treat cancer and is not harmful to healthy tissue. Ken, like the countless others before him, showed how black salve is selective. It goes after the cancer and does not burn healthy tissue, nor is it caustic to healthy skin, as the TGA claims. Ken has made a YouTube video series about his victory over treating numerous skin cancers on his face and upper chest area. Over the past 20 years, Ken has had skin cancers removed by experienced medical practitioners, by liquid nitrogen, and by surgery. However, each time they've had to do more of it, and still, Ken, like many others, has had skin cancers return. Over the past 7 years, Ken had been using the Cansema black salve, and very successfully, where surgery would have left telltale scars. In part 5 of Ken's Victory Over Skin Cancer video series, he shows how the Cansema black salve does not burn holes in normal healthy human skin, or warts, or wart-like moles, or any large freckles or anything that is non-cancerous. Cansema black salve will only attack skin cancer cells and destroy them, such as basal, squamous, and melanoma carcinomas. In his video description, Ken writes that there are a number of false accusations about Cansema black salve being a harmful caustic ointment that burns, but this is not true. From my personal experience and experiences of my friends who have used Cansema black salve successfully on skin carcinomas, it is composed of bloodroot, graviola, chaparral, galangal, zinc chloride, and DMSO, and only attacks skin cancer cells. In this footage Ken shot, he used the same black salve paste that he has previously used for years to successfully treat his numerous skin cancers. In this video, Ken showed 4 more examples of where the salve was applied to suspected skin cancers and no caustic action was observed. This fact is verified by all who have used the safe black salve formula in question. Their records and success stories have been present on the internet for anyone to research since even before the 1990s. Records of these escharotic pastes date back to the 1800s. There is simply no excuse for not being able to find them if one was researching black salve. If the TGA can find Nirvana's website, which showed a successful application, why then can't they find the countless others, which are revealed in a simple Google search? If we are to call the TGA's actions ignorance, it may still be questionable for some. If we are to call it corruption, perhaps for some of you, this is now less questionable. Let's go back and give the TGA the benefit of the doubt and call their claims and actions a simple case of ignorance. Now to the medical records others have shown with their results. These reports, like the testimonials, have been present on the internet for anyone to find for many years. The first is a breast cancer patient. Thankfully, she has put her results into the public domain. French-Canadian-born Véronique Dessalinières, also known as Dr. V, has done the essential job to help inspire other women to be proactive with not only black salve, but with cancer prevention, which involves what we have said from a long time ago, the raw food diet and juicing and detoxing. Dr. V presented her 45-day essay and medical records of her successful treatment of breast cancer using black salve. In her video, Dr. V presents her courageous records of eliminating breast cancer with emphasis on a holistic approach, including the preventative and utilization of nutrition like broccoli sprouts and others. Dr. V's website also contains many inspiring stories of people who have overcome cancer using her dietary approach. There are many illustrations of this raw food diet on the net, which one can access for free. Some of her cases even feature so-called terminal cancers, which the word terminal only means that allopathy hasn't got the treatment for it. It's incomplete evidence to say the condition can't be cured or hasn't been cured, and black salve can prove that to you. The next medical records were submitted to us by Michelle Sayer from North Hampshire in the UK. This is a good friend of one of our Aussie volunteers, Peter James, who also has medical records of a so-called terminal SCC cancer. Michelle Sayer was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2009. A friend of hers just happened to be a holistic practitioner and sent her Elaine Hollingsworth DVD, The One Answer to Cancer, which itself profiles many other successful reports of breast cancer conquering using this cheap, low-cost, proven and effective herbal remedy. Michelle was amazed at what she saw and then went on to purchasing some black salve. Michelle presented her medical records proving that she had breast cancer and also presented a photo essay which is synonymous with others' results showing the standard protocol. It will enable the immune system to push out the cancerous tissue. Of further interest to this case is the message that Michelle sent us. Quote, I also want to add that this is the second YouTube account that I have opened. The first account was strangely deleted when I tried to log in. Fortunately for you too, I've had a copy of my video and have re-uploaded it to my new YouTube account. I have also had email contact via YouTube previously with Peter, the nurse who cured the cancer on his foot. I'm sure he will remember me. End quote. From medical proof of black salve successfully treating breast cancer to others' observational and photo testimonial reports. Of the many we can choose from to present, we will present the following. A quote from the following YouTube video. This is a short video clip of a cancerous breast tumour removed using only herbs. That would be the black salve formula. The whole procedure from start to finish only took 1 month. This included healing the rather deep wound left when the tumour popped out. Here is the case of Bill O'Leary. To the FDA and TGA, let it be known at the public release date of this video that Panacea wishes to offer you a live subject in order to evaluate us using this proven herbal remedy to treat skin cancers. It won't be as easy for you to deny our results, as we will have a police independent body under supervision in order to prove, like others have, that black salve works and is beyond any need for human trials. Its safety record already secures our claims and results. We can also repeat the fact that black salve is not harmful to healthy tissue, and we can test this by putting the formula on cancer to prove it removes cancer, then putting the same batch on healthy skin like others have to show that it doesn't harm healthy skin. However, we must not stop there. We need the numbers up with medical proof. Only then can we reveal who is trying to suppress this and why and how to address it effectively. No one has suffered side effects, so we don't need any further investigation by any corrupt companies who will pledge to investigate only in order to delay the reality because they want to sell you ineffective treatments in the meantime. Black salve is working since before the 90s. The results and medical proof is there already. Let's compare conventional cancer treatments. What you are about to witness is an example of one of our very own volunteers, Peter James, who underwent this very procedure from start to finish. First, there was a medical diagnosis from a biopsy. Pictured here is a medical record of Peter James' squamous cell carcinoma, or SCC. Here you can see the biopsy confirm that Peter did in fact have an unknown healing ulcer on his left foot, and the section showed a presence of an ulcerated, infiltrating squamous cell carcinoma, or SCC. In the next slide, you can see that surgery was booked for Peter. Note the date here, 6th of September 2011. Surgery was booked for excision of Peter's SCC tumour. Here is a photo supplied to us by Peter of the post-biopsy. 3 days afterwards, where you can see the SCC ulcer in full effect. This prompted the hospital in Wyong to book Peter in for an operation. Upon Panacea's advice, Peter then applied the black salve. Here you can see a picture after the black salve was applied of a red, inflamed and painful SCC ulcer. The standard procedure is to remove the black salve after 24 hours, and this is what Peter did. Here you can see good signs of a reaction from the salve, although painful and red. Progressing nicely, here we can see signs of a clearly defined eschar forming. Here we can see red, swollen and painful, the eschar in the centre. Good signs that the body is beginning to recognize the cancer and expel it. Peter then began removal with a Q-tip. However, we can never be sure that we got the cancer in the first application, so Peter then applied a second application of the salve on the SCC ulcer. Here we can see signs of a positive reaction. We're looking at the post-second application of black salve for 24 hours. Here it appears after the dressing was removed that the eschar is again lifting. A 6 centimetre long cavity is pictured in the centre. The sun can heal, and here we can see Peter getting some sunlight and the needed vitamin D, which will decrease your risk of cancer by up to 55%. Now we can see the true power of the human body. The eschar is lifting. Although it is deep and painful, the body is on the mend. Cleansed and fresh dressing, and looking good. Here we can see the salve doing its thing, and the eschar lifting, on the road to recovery. And finally, we can see the eschar removed, ready for pathology to get examined, which would have clearly and unequivocally shown dead cancerous tissue, and that the SCC cancer had in fact been removed by a herbal, non-toxic remedy. Signs of a clean wound base here after the salve did its job. A graphic picture here showing black salve necrotic tissue. Now onto cleaning the debris. Peter used honey propolis tincture. This is something that cannot be reproduced in the lab. It was not always understood, however bees use propolis tincture to protect the hive from a lot of bacteria and viruses, and it is also shown potential chemopreventative properties or cancer cure potential. Doctors are certainly dangerous, as our good friend Elaine Hollingsworth can testify to. When Peter visited the hospital to obtain a biopsy, he contracted a staph infection or MRSA, and then went on to develop cellulitis, which gave him extreme pain during the herbal removal of the SCC cancer with black salve. Pictured here you can see the true capacity of propolis tincture. This is only 2 days after application, and we can see a clean wound cavity. It's no surprise we can see the wound closing up and the infection beginning to be resolved. This was done using a combination of aloe vera gel, propolis tincture, and colloidal silver. Yes, MRSA and cellulitis was cured using colloidal silver. These are not things that the doctor will prescribe to you in the present climate, or will be taught about at medical school. They won't make any money off this. In fact, they try to coerce Peter into taking antibiotics, and there is no way that antibiotics could clean up the infection in such a capacity. Colloidal silver can't be patented. You can make it yourself. Propolis tincture can only be made by bees, and that's going to cause another problem for them also. But the education remains under the radar, and Peter, Panacea, and you are going to change that. Here we can see another scene carried on from the propolis tincture application. Inflammation has settled, the wound looks good. Now, after the pathology report, we had to go in for a second biopsy. Here is the picture of the pre-wound scrape incision, the morning before the second biopsy. We can also see some propolis stains. However, Peter's recovery is nothing short of miraculous. We have some healthy tissue here. Now we can see the wound base filling in, and we're on to the third day after the biopsy excision. Second post-biopsy you can see pictured there in the middle left-hand side of your screen. Now we can see the end of the cancer industry using surgery, and some freedom for breast cancer sufferers, because black salve works. And here we can see the filling in and granulating. No tumour or SCC was confirmed on this day. The stitches were removed and the operation was cancelled. And we are going to show you the certified documentation to prove it. Here we can clearly and unequivocally see the diagnosis that there is no evidence of fungi or the SCC cancer. And on the bottom we can see the surgery was cancelled. Here is the personal letter addressed to Peter James from the hospital confirming the surgery was cancelled. Now how do you work that one out? How then can you cancel surgery and even not take the antibiotics prescribed and have such a prognosis? Allopathic medicine did nothing, but the black salve did everything. We have an extensive record with the surgeons' names, times and dates to prove this clearly and conclusively. What you are looking at here is another record of the same day pre-admission screening for surgery. We have much more documentation to support this, and there are literally hundreds of others on YouTube that will testify to the bona fide capacity of black salve. Here we are going to see some healing photos. Pictured here is the wound granulating and closing. Pictured here we can see some healthy regrowth of the epidermis. Healthy pink tissue begins forming. Now we can see the edges reduced from an astonishing 6 centimeters down to 2 centimeters after merely 4 weeks. Now the wound bed has filled and the edges are closing. Further progression of the granulation and closing of the wound. Now what we expected. The wound has almost healed over completely, and Peter giving us the message that he is returning to work in 2 days. Peter, being a nurse, is returning to allopathic medicine, who had nothing for him but drugs and surgery. What would they think of his report?
I just want to relate my experience with cancer that was discovered in my foot. It turns out that I had it for 3 years by the time it was found. And I wasn't keen on the treatment they were offering, and decided to look into alternative methods. And I'll have to say from the beginning that this is not medical advice or in any way whatsoever. My name is Peter James. I'm a nurse. I've been nursing for 30 years, and as good as medicine is, sometimes it's not so good. And in the area of cancer, I believe personally that it's hasn't made much progress or any progress in the last 50 years. And so hence I didn't have a lot of confidence in the traditional treatments that are offered. So I've done some research diligently, and going on some previous research that I'd done 10 years ago, I briefly came across a salve that's called black salve, and it's a herbal product made of bloodroot, a plant, and it's got a couple of other herbs in it which I can't remember off the top of my head. Just blended together and applied topically, and it essentially destroys cancer cells but leaves healthy tissue intact. So I opted to go down that track, but at the same time I felt obligated to follow the doctor's directions. Had my GP involved and an oncologist surgeon specialist also involved. I'd undergone a lot of tests looking for cancer in every part of my body, and until I insisted the doctor test cancer in my foot, because I had an ulcer in my foot that was there for 3 years that wouldn't heal, and it was about the size of a small fingernail, I guess, and getting deeper. It would close up and then reopen, and the doctor would give me antibiotics which didn't do anything much. That happened 3 times. I resorted to using some colloidal silver to help the ulcer heal, which it almost did. It was the only thing that did help the wound itself heal. But because it's on my foot and I'm a nurse, and nurses do a lot of working with, it was right on the top of the foot and the dorsal, and the constant aggravation and rubbing wasn't letting it heal. I would have had to take 3 months off work resting my foot up to let it heal without being aggravated. But colloidal silver certainly helped that and stopped reinfection. And of course I had a machine to make my own, and this is a sample, this bottle that just sprays on. It's a little bit yellowy because it's a strong version. It's about 30 parts per million, that when you make it a weaker solution, it doesn't go yellow at all, and you can drink that version, but this is a topical version, so that worked really good on keeping infection away, far better than the antibiotics. So I insisted, getting back to what I was saying, I insisted the doctor tested my foot for cancer, and they'd done a biopsy, and it was confirmed. SCC cancer, which had resulted from a chronic foot ulcer that had been there for 3 years and not healing. It eventually turned cancerous and became a Magellan's tumour. And even though it was only the size of my small fingernail, on the surface of it was only the tip of the iceberg. Underneath the 6 by 8 centimetre massive tumour, which wasn't picked up by a biopsy. A biopsy can't tell you the size, it can only tell you that there is cancer there. I was offered surgery. I was booked in fairly urgently. Within a couple of weeks I was booked in. A large amount of my foot would have to be cut away, and then reconstruction surgery. There's a lot of very tender muscle tissue there, and veins and arteries, and very close to the bone. And if that failed, it would have, the next step would have been radiation therapy and possibly chemotherapy to stop it spreading. But anyway, I went ahead with all that as per normal, and the biopsy confirmed it. And I got onto some black salve, done some more research, and thought, well, I'll give it a shot. What have I got to lose? Now, I could possibly lose my foot and be disabled the rest of my life is the best outcome, or even lose my life. So black salve has never killed anyone, and it's natural, organic, so why not? And this was a brand that was recommended to me after consulting with a few good naturopaths that had experience with alternative cancer treatments. So I applied a little dab of this salve and covered it with a dressing for 24 hours, and then removed it, the dressing, and a little bit goes a long way. It only takes a small dab, and immediately it showed almost like an x-ray of how large the tumour was. A large white area showed up, and 6 by 8 centimetres, and it was very painful with the application of the black salve, which was complicated by the fact that I got MRSA in that ulcer, and cellulitis in my foot as well. So 3 really serious issues to deal with all at once. A tumour in there which is ready for operation, and MRSA, and cellulitis. I still persisted and used with the black salve, and over the next few weeks I documented the test results and photographs of the progress of the wound, and 5 days after the application, slowly a large tumour just removed itself from my foot, and people thought I was insane. That can't possibly happen. And I had nurses coming in every second day to dress my wound, and all thinking that I'd already been to surgery, and not believing me that I haven't been to surgery yet. They thought they were doing post-surgery wound care. The tumour was already out, and I delivered the tumour to pathology at the hospital, and meanwhile the nurses are still coming in and dressing my wound as if the surgery had already been done. I'm trying to tell them, no, it's not for another week away yet. Anyway, I documented it all on video, in photos, and made a short video of the sequence of it. But in a nutshell, 5 days later, I was left with a huge clean hole, surgically clean hole in the top of my foot. See if I can find a photo of that for you. But going back, this is the big white area initially that showed up. Approximately 2 days after I applied black salve, 6 by 8 centimetres. Now, initially it was only the size of my fingernail, and it was only very superficial too, the small fingernail. And then applied black salve, cleaned it off, revealing an awful mess. And I actually applied another application at that point just to be double sure, and then 5 days later a large eschar started forming and lifting from my foot, and incredible pain because I still had cellulitis at that stage on top of it, which I eventually dealt with colloidal silver. Once again, it settled the cellulitis in MRSA, and I got the test results for that shown too, before and after. And I'll run forward, so I just kept up the dressings, and bit by bit it started to lift, and finally it just fell out into a kitchen container because a specimen jar is too small for it. That went to pathology and left me with a perfectly clean hole in my foot, as if the surgeon had already been there, as if I'd already been to hospital. But I hadn't, and hadn't been near it. And I just continued documenting it as it was healing. As 4 weeks later it was reduced from 6 centimetres down to 2 centimetres. Going forward, it reduced down to 1 centimetre. That's about 8 weeks later. And closing up, I wasn't needing any dressings by this stage, and continuing on, finally that little remaining scab just came away with a bit of a rub, and end result, barely any scar, barely visible. and I'd had another biopsy done, and there's no cancer cells to be found. That's the little tiny scab that fell off.
How much difficulty did you have with telling doctors and that about, and the medical establishment about your black salve?
That was
Yes.
the hardest part of the whole process. They're reluctant to believe me. I'm pretty sure they thought I was crazy. I was just somatic, complaining, and in my head, basically. So it was difficult all along. But you know, the reports and clinical evidence just speaks for itself. I mean, the doctors had no explanation how the cancer can be there one day and gone the next.
Yeah.
Firstly, you know, like within a month the cancer was completely gone. The second biopsy.
The evidence speaks for itself.
To go cancer there, it was going to require surgery and possibly radiation and chemotherapy, all planned to go ahead, and then a month later cancelled.
Yeah.
Foot healed, you know, and another month later back at work. It's pretty self-evident.
Pictured here is another volunteer which Panacea helped regarding a return skin cancer. Bruce Gorrie obtained information which can be accessed via our minimum donation service, which helps us educate others. Panacea helped Bruce get rid of his cancer for the second time. Initially, surgery could not remove it. It returned, like many other skin cancers do, in many other cases. But black salve was the final say in this matter. Pictured here is the salve working on Bruce's face. It was not long until the eschar formed and the tumour was removed. Then we moved on to the healing process, and Bruce came along very well. Panacea advised Bruce of the essential exercise and diet needed for a full recovery. Then Bruce, one of our most courageous volunteers, moved on to helping Panacea educate the world. Bruce is now going towards a biopsy record, and even applied his present case to the Queensland Institute of Medical Research. Their answer is still pending. And what will they say in order to tell you about this cheap, easy remedy? Let us remind everyone that surgery did not remove Bruce's cancer, but the black salve did. Let us remind you all that Bruce removed his cancer for around $60, and in a non-toxic, non-surgical way. The first time Bruce had surgery to remove 2 skin cancers on his face failed. Now compare the cost and toll on the body with this natural remedy. Both cancers that Bruce had allopathic medicine remove return. However, applying this cheap $60 non-toxic remedy, cancer was not so lucky. Which one would you prefer? Which one is your doctor telling you about? And who is going to police this? Okay, here we are now with at least 20 days with Bruce, and as you can see, this is healing up very, very nicely. Slowly, but surely. No sign of anything. We've done a few applications to be sure, and the doctor has basically said he doesn't know what to make of it, but he's happy enough to say that no biopsy is recommended or required. Now, our second return cancer, it's right about there. You can see, and that was from surgery. First we had surgery to remove it, so This is the next one, which we're going to invite the Queensland Institute of Medical Research to see live, and we can do biopsy stuff on that if needed. But as you can see, the first method of surgery is not as effective as the second method, the non-toxic herbal application, which we can see here. There's the result.
Hi all, I'm Andrew Gardner, volunteer and trustee of Panacea. Just wanted to give you a heads up on something in regards to mobile phones. Everyone knows that we can get cancer in the brain by talking on the phone like that. It's actually a good idea that you use it on loudspeaker, so you hold it in your hand or you put it down on the table when you talk on the phone on loudspeaker. But here's something you probably didn't know. During the daytime I carry my phone in my pocket like that, and one day a sore come up and it took a very long time to heal, so I thought something was up with that and I'd get some black salve and give it a go. So I put the black salve on my leg and that's what come up. So obviously even keeping a phone in your pocket can cause cancer as well. And that's the results there.
There are many others that can back up what we're saying. Perhaps one of the most substantial records can be found in Elaine Hollingsworth's One Answer to Cancer documentary DVD. This was narrated by Tony Barry. This documentary features Eli Jones, a naturopath who left records of its success in the 1500s. It also shows many testimonials and case files, including Graham's skin cancer case, alternative health educator Bevan Potter's skin cancer case, Bill O'Leary's skin cancer case, Terry O'Reilly's skin cancer case, Joe Simpson, and perhaps some of the most interesting, the breast cancer patients, Wendy Fox. The Wendy Fox breast cancer case is unique, as she was able to remove multiple breast cancers and find other cancers where the ultrasound failed to recognize them. What of the women who presently lose their breasts to surgery now? Others include Merrill Powell, Beverly Bailey, a breast cancer patient, and Ricky Carr, who used the salve to remove her thyroid cancer. There is also mention of a bowel cancer case using black salve. Probably the most unique case featured in that documentary would have to be the one of Tanya Anderson of Queensland, Australia, on the Gold Coast. Tanya had Ewing sarcoma, a so-called terminal bone and muscle cancer. Black salve removed it, yet this education and knowledge remains largely unnoticed and under the radar, and it is only contained on the One Answer to Cancer documentary DVD. Naturopath Adrian Jones was also featured, who has documented many cases and presents them in his newsletter and on his website. Many successful cases, from pets to humans. Those were not the only black salve testimonials in existence. Greg Caton's Alpha Omega Labs site, or Alt Cancer site, has profiled virtually countless testimonials since 1995.
I cannot allow
such unscrupulous government coordinated fraud to go unanswered. So after a lot of prayer and careful consideration, I have decided to tell the world how escharotics are made. To the best of my knowledge, this is the first time that anyone has provided a video to show how simple it is to make effective escharotics that cure cancer. The cure rate is well over 99% for squamous, basal, and melanoma cancers of the dermal and epidermal areas of the body when the product is made correctly and properly applied. My second reason for putting out this video is that I feel that 146 years of defrauding the public into thinking that many cancers are not as easy to cure as athletes' feet is long enough. All this medical fraud and corruption has got to come to an end, and that's why I'm making this video. That's why I authored Metatopia.org. Now, there are a series of U.S. patents, and I talk about this on the Metatopia.org site and in the book that go back to 1878. Not just anyone can read these patents and tell how the product is made. So that's why I've learned enough to know that only the dissemination of the true knowledge untainted by the disinformation activities of orthodox medical authorities and their community and the FDA is going to allow people to know the truth. With experimentation and by networking with other citizens who will now know how to create this product, you will learn for yourself just how scandalous this deception is.
Basic preparation of black sour involves around 50 grams of the active ingredient bloodroot, 50 grams of chaparral, 50 grams of graviola, and 50 grams of galangal. We'll be using about 500 mils of distilled water and 250 grams of zinc chloride, about 25 mils of DMSO, and 25 mils of vegetable glycerine. You'll need a hot plate, or if you don't have a hot plate, you'll be using an open flame, so you'll be using some water and bringing that to the boil as your hot plate on heat-proof Pyrex glass. You also need some scales to weigh out the herbs, and of course you'll need a measuring cup to measure out the DMSO and glycerin and distilled water. So start measuring out 50 grams of bloodroot, graviola, chaparral, and galangal. We're going to add 500 mils of distilled water into a pot. Then we're going to add 250 grams of zinc chloride, and we're going to bring that to the boil. We're going to stir that frequently to make sure there's no clumps. Low heat's the best way to do this. Keep stirring it always. Make sure you get all the clumps out. After simmering, we're going to add the dried herbs to the mixture, stirring frequently, and make sure they're all absorbed in and no clumps are there. Alright, so we'll keep stirring until it resembles a paste. Always keep stirring this mixture when you've got it on. Keep stirring it always. See how it's resembling more of a paste now? Make sure your clumps are out. Give it a thorough stir. I've been simmering it for about 15 minutes. We're going to add 25 mils of DMSO while you stir it. This is our carrier, and we'll get into the deep tissue. Then we'll add 25 mils of vegetable glycerin, again while stirring. This is to keep it moist, nothing more. Just keep stirring it all in till it's all evenly dispersed, and you're done. This will be enough to last pretty much one family a lifetime, and so you'll be able to share this with your friends, and this will sort of keep indefinitely, but if it does get dry, just add some water to it, make sure it's viscous before you apply it, and keep it stored in your fridge. It's now time for all of us to pair together and do the right things and learn from this and ensure that we can educate the public. And to do this, we must start with how you can help. Step 1. Please sign the petition to ensure that governments, accompanied by an independent body like us, look at funding research for black sow as an alternative cure to cancer. Step 2. Please join us on Facebook. Post your story, photos, or just support us by recommending the Facebook page to everyone you know. The only way we will get awareness is by the internet at this stage. Step 3. Send this website link out to as many people as you know to help them learn about alternative cancer cures. We must get involved for the bigger picture. We need volunteers to help us with media, marketing, promotion, and legal help. If you would like to join us to lobby the Australian government to help fund alternative cancer research, then please contact us. If you don't have the time to help us, then please don't think that any donation, no matter how small, won't help us with costs in any way. We have a lot of volunteers, however at times we do need items such as printing, press, articles, written office administration, and more. Donating any items to us can help us get our cause heard. Your donations will be critically needed and appreciated as we run our organisation on no budget at this time. We wish to thank our volunteers, sponsors, and people that so generously have stepped up to help. Last of all, we critically need your medical records to publish. The only way black sow will gain credibility is to prove it works. Without proper medical records, pictures, videos, or any form of proof to the claims of black sow working, will ensure that this alternative cancer cure remains ignored. Awareness is the key, and just by sending our link out to people you know can help create that awareness. You never know, you just might help someone cure their cancer. Thank you for watching. As we've seen so far in our production, the current orthodox system of treating illness, also known as allopathy, is not only monopolistic, but it prevents safe, inexpensive, often more effective treatments from reaching the public. There is no better example of this, really, than the cancer industry, as enormous it is in size. For example, the cancer industry grosses in excess of around $150 billion annually in the United States alone. And yet the most effective cancer treatments are, in most cases, very inexpensive and less than, say, $100. No political combination could possibly allow such effective, inexpensive treatments to see the light of day in the mainstream market. There are enormous resources used to control the media, the academic community, politicians, researchers, in short, all basically dissemination of information to the public. The internet at this present time is really the only thing attempting to address this. Panacea aims to collect biofeedback on the black salve treatment, and this is in order to help fundraise to create an alternative medicine clinic, or to be granted basically the use of facilities where we can bring in proven biofeedback on a whole manner of alternative effective cancer treatments and alternative medicine. And all this can make really as large of an impact to public health as the black salve case. Individuals with their treatments like Greg Caton, Bevan Potter and many others, we really have a plethora of treatments waiting to improve public health. It really does need your help to support. Recording biofeedback and obtaining allopathic medical proof of these treatments means that the public have their own informed consent on these treatments, or what some call cures. And further, we would have the capacity to work with other clinics in other countries where they have a higher medical success or statistically significant efficacy from alternative cancer treatments. And sadly, they are forced to operate and administer their successful, cheap and non-toxic treatments in countries like Ecuador and Mexico at this present time. All of them working together with our coordinated biofeedback program could bring their treatments and their life-saving data really and education to our populations to benefit. Doctors will help us record live biofeedback at the proposed clinic or facility that could be offered to us, and all participate to help collect data from other clinics like the Oasis of Hope clinic running out of Mexico, who have a higher success than the Western clinic treatment, the Gerson clinic in Mexico, and many others. Our proposed alternative medical research centre or use of facilities in an existing biofeedback environment will not be unlike the former Can Help Cancer Clinic that operated on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, who administer a whole host of alternative treatments and helped a lot of people, but just didn't have the right protocol to collect the relevant biofeedback. And this is what we really need now. The purpose of this medical research centre and or clinic or use of facilities really to ensure that we provide the public access to the tonnage of evidence confirming the extent of the suppression of these treatments and these effective alternative treatments, which are highly effective, safe, with only minor possible side effects, very inexpensive, and really we would need to establish this to give a background in layman's terms of what formulas are used, have been used, their history, as well as basically what we've done to improve their effectiveness. Plus record the proof, of course, that the public needs to police it. So if you can assist us in supporting our alternative medicine clinic or offer facilities for us to use, or have any ideas in any way that you can suggest to us, please contact Panacea. Patients must have the right to choose what treatment is right for them. This freedom of choice must be present not only in conventional or allopathic medicine, but also in complementary and alternative medicine, with an informed consent. We do, however, all need to participate to police this huge conflict of interest with the billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry, which actually have no law preventing them from financing a politician's campaign at this time. There is no legal corporation charter in place to limit the campaign donations by big pharmaceutical interests. So really, it is no wonder that the corruption cannot be policed at this time. People with cancer must make treatment decisions with the best available information, including the knowledge of what the alternative cancer treatment can do. Black salve is one alternative cancer treatment that offers the best hope of success and is backed up by more than anecdotal evidence. It is really, as Panacea has produced, backed up by scientific evidence. Black salve is beyond any needed human trials. It has more than proved itself as a reliable, safe and non-toxic treatment for thyroid, SCC, BCC, Ewing sarcoma and breast cancers. There are also internal salve applications, and these are in critical need of further biofeedback. The cases that we have seen and investigated ourselves, as we produced our own records to show that black salve can be classed as complementary and alternative medicine. The testimonials have the only accurate information about black salve at this time. There are many other natural vitamins and supplements used in alternative and whole food medicine, which, all like black salve, can soon be under threat. The now not so secretive organisation that is Codex Alimentarius is really a thinly veiled propaganda arm of the international pharmaceutical industry. It does everything it can to promote industry objectives whilst limiting the individual's options to maintain health, which would of course diminish its members' profits. Codex Alimentarius is one of the major bodies behind the effort to limit access to nutritional products and information even. Codex Alimentarius, meaning food code, is a set of regulations that aim to outlaw any health information in connection with vitamins and limit free access to natural therapies, and this is on a worldwide scale. Its motivation is not quackery or rocket science, and neither is the source of its funding. Money that somehow is expected to return a profit to its members. Most of the information available regarding Codex Alimentarius refers to its role in the United States, but it is not a US specific body and is very far from it. Codex has infiltrated into just about every national, international body connected with public health, and it is of course posing as a benefactor. It then uses its significant financial and political clout to do its so-called master's bidding. So we all must, and that is all, must participate, either by mandate, public pressure, class action, or others, to protect our right to choose alternative medicine and protect natural vitamins and supplements, all those that are used in alternative and whole food medicine, like black salve, and many others. Can you help Panacea do this? Ideas and volunteers are needed and welcome. We also need volunteers who use black salve to help collect before and after allopathic medical records. This is, of course, to help us educate the world. With enough of these records, enough people doing this for us, it will become undeniable and it will devastate the corruption. So can you participate? Please contact us for info if you can. Panacea also provides some coaching and a minimum donation service to help us fundraise to educate the world about black salve. This includes advice, walkthroughs with basically a cancer prevention diet and an exercise plan. If you require this or can help our educational efforts, please contact us. We also wish to announce that we will be producing an extensive video and PDF course on alternative cancer treatments with our own ideas and records to help police alternative cancer treatments, educate the world, collect biofeedback and stop corruption. So we would like to say to all, from the trustees at Panacea, be well and thank you for watching.